So, like I said, your main work area here, the main space that everything else is sort of on top of, is the desktop. And this is, just like it implies, it is like the top of your desk, your workspace for you to put different files or different things of any nature. Okay? And as technology advances, we get things like these up here, which are called widgets. So we're moving from, just having pieces of paper on our desk or windows that show us files or websites that are very similar to, having a stack of paper, just more conveniently packaged in a digital format. Now we have widgets that are more like, taking something like a clock and putting it on your desk, or having a running little TV that tells you the weather, right? But because it's a digital format, things are much easier. So instead of having a calendar on your desk and having to flip through it, you can have a calendar widget, click on it, and instantly open up your own calendar to see what you have going on. Same idea for the weather, interact with it, and then we can get more accurate or up-to-date weather. And these widgets are sort of tiny pre-built or tiny customizable software that can do various functions, usually informative, basically just a different visual to keep track of something or another. Very vague explanation because of the vast amount of things that it can do. We've got this other widget here which shows the current charge of our two wireless components, the keyboard and the mouse, like we were talking about earlier. And we can see the current battery charge for those since they're both wireless. Alright, so before we move on from the desktop, over here in the top right, but underneath the Apple bar, we have some folders and files. That's also things that you can keep on the desktop and in a closed manner. So this just popped open because I clicked on the desktop again, but if I open up a folder, it shows me all the files in it. It takes me into Finder, as we can see in the top left. It says that I'm in Finder, and that's how I can navigate through all my files and folders. You can also have an individual file, which will open up in whatever program that file is supposed to interact with, as well as shortcuts to programs themselves, like Scratch or Tinkercad is actually going to be a link to a website that opened up on the other monitor. So, the last thing we're going to talk about when it comes to operating system basics is the dock. The dock is this area here along the bottom. It is where you are able to put any application you'd like to have a shortcut there. It will have a variety of shortcuts already, usually for Apple software that comes with the computer, such as Finder, Safari, Mail, Calendar, Maps, Photos. A lot of it will be similar to products you might see on other softwares you might see on other Apple products. However, you can also add things that weren't there, like Google Chrome, Zoom, Camtasia, and you can have them stay there so that you can quickly access programs that you want to use, instead of having to open up Finder, go to applications, and then scrolling around to find it. However, you could also use this launchpad that is one of the things on the dock to also get quick access to your applications. But the dock is more than just a place to store your icons. That is its main function. However, you're also able to use it to get information about your current setup, what's going on, and just glean certain information. For instance, anything that has a black dot underneath it, like Google Chrome and Finder, that means it's actively running. It is still open. So if I right click on it, I have the option quit. And as you can see, it keeps popping back up, so it's clearly still running. If I right click on Safari, there's no such option because it's not running. Another thing I can do when right clicking is going to options and saying keep in dock. As long as something has that, it will stay in the dock. So what I mean by that is if we go along the dock to the right here, we have this line. This line represents things that, or it represents the split between things on the left that are staying in the dock even when they're not open, and then things that have been opened recently, and then things that are minimized. So anything to the right is not necessarily going to stay in the dock. In some cases it might, because like for example Google Chrome is something that was opened recently, but it's also still open and it's just saved to the dock as well. These other things not so much. If we right click them, we can say keep in dock, which would put it on the left side of the bar now because it's going to stay. We can also say remove from dock, which then removes it completely. And like I said, this is for minimize things, as well as it shows the downloads folder. It's just a quick shortcut to get to things you downloaded, as well as the trash can, which is where deleted files go until you decide to empty them, which is technically just another storage location within Finder, but that's something that we'll get into in another video. So both Chrome OS, Windows, Linux all have very similar functions. The desktop, as well as designated areas for shortcuts and for informational display like time, date, network connection, and some sort of area that produces a button that will give you access to more navigational features to find other things on the computer within the operating system. With Apple, that's our little Apple bar is one example of that. Windows has the Windows button, which opens up a menu that allows you to sort through various things, find various different things that are features on the operating system. And in Chrome, they too have a variety of similar features, such as something similar to this, sort of a combination of this pop-up window, but it has more of these features, as well as the ability to turn on and off, and it's in the bottom right. That's how Chrome OS is. They all have the same features, it's just going to look a bit different. And then there might be some slight variation as to how those features work, but generally speaking, you can do most of the same things. Another feature that all of the operating systems have that is an important aspect to how you use the computer and your connection to the computer as a whole is your account when first signing in to your computer, when you first open it up. Apple is going to want you to connect your Apple ID to the computer, and that's what we have over here. We're signed into our Apple ID. On Windows, they'll want you to sign into your Microsoft account, and on Chromebooks, they want you to sign into your Google account. So each one of the companies that makes the operating systems wants you to log into an account in their system to attach it to the machine. I'm fairly certain that you have to for a Chromebook. That's definitely the case. Both Apple and Microsoft are approaching that point. I think you can still use a Windows computer with just a local account. They won't be happy about it. They'll try and force you to use a Windows account, but I think you still can. And with Apple, you might be able to still as well. However, there's, I think, even more limitations or caveats there. But I would say that generally speaking, it is a good idea to connect your accounts to your devices. Because what that does, like in Apple's case, is it ties it into your system so that you can see that it's your device, and that like anybody would be able to tell that it's your device. And that's the nature of making that connection. You sort of have to, you'd need your account information to remove yourself from the device. So it's something that prevents other people from using it if it's stolen, as well as, your ability to find it if it was stolen or lost. And the fact that we see a whole bunch of SDM Foundation Apple products on this list is proof of that concept. So we're currently on a Mac Mini, but we have plenty of other Apple products downstairs, like MacBook, and I could remove this from the account if I wanted to, but I would have to definitely know the account password to do so, and I could find out where these things exist by utilizing Find My. Okay, so it's currently off for this computer, so, oh wow. Windows has the same ability to track your devices as long as the right settings are on. It's less robust than Apple's because Apple, one, they're in control completely of their devices, so they make the computers and the software, they make the iPhones and the software. But the other half is that, Windows is mostly just computers, but Apple has mobile devices or devices that are on the move more. Therefore, the Find My functionality is better for that because it's more useful. Alright, so connecting the Apple ID also means that you're introducing cloud services to the machine, because connected to your account is a cloud. With Apple, it's the iCloud. With Windows, it is OneDrive. And with Google, it's the Google Drive and Google Photos, all that sort of stuff, the Google Workspace. They all work very similarly, even though, Google Photos and Google Drive are separate, and iCloud is a thing, and so is, photos on Apple products. Technically, it's going to the same storage space, which is just the iCloud or Google Drive. And what that means is that whichever company it is, Microsoft, Apple, Google, and you have access to their cloud with an account, they give you a certain amount of storage space that is given to you, and it's allotted on one of their machines that is on in a server farm, a big building with tons of different servers, and on one of those servers there's some allocated space just for you, and you're able to expand that space by giving them money, but essentially connecting your account to any device allows you to access that cloud on the device. So as you can see over here, we've got iCloud. And if we click on that, we can see which apps are currently using iCloud from this device, as well as what's in iCloud from all of our devices. The ability to, go manage the account storage, optimizing the Mac storage to make sure that space is not taken up with redundant data. Not too much anyways. And if we continue looking around this same area, which is the iCloud section of the system settings, we also have the ability to show more apps. And what that's going to do is give us a list of the applications on this specific device that are going to iCloud, so that are syncing with iCloud, meaning that anything that is either on or has this, is blue instead of gray, is syncing to the iCloud account. Meaning, if it's on any device, like the ones we saw on that list, as long as it's on that device as well, they'll have the exact same contacts. So devices with them on sync up with the cloud, which is where like the master list is, and as long as the device is, choosing to be on in that case, then it gets replicated. The master list is replicated on all the other devices. And that works for anything. So, if it was contacts, it might be a literal list of contacts, right? But with a calendar or Safari, that's different bits of information. Your appointments, etc., everything on your calendar. In Safari, like bookmarks, favorite websites, or history, stuff like that. And if something's off, like Find My Mac, as you saw, we weren't able to go and see where this device exists using a GPS map system, because that's off. But any devices that are on, you'd be able to see their location. And the reason why something like this is, part of operating system basics at this point is just because of how much these companies are really pushing for account connection to devices. And, there's a plethora of reasons why that's the case, but it is convenient for the user in many ways. There's definitely negative aspects, like a lack of privacy, generally speaking. If you have to tie an account to a device, it's inherently sort of got a connection out, right? Like it's got a path to communicate with a company. And based on the agreements that you sign with any of these companies, certain information about how you use the computer, etc., is going to those companies. So, that could be a negative aspect, but at the same time, it makes it very, very easy to access more files on your computer, even if you don't have the local storage for it. Make sure that your devices stay secure, whether you are in physical possession of them or not, as well as the ability to take your computer experience, right, like everything you have on it, and put it onto a new machine. If your old one is just running out of life, or if you get a new one or you lost it, having an account tied to the machine allows information from the machine to be in that account, and then you can use that to recreate what you had on a new computer. So it's something that you really shouldn't be unaware of. It's something that is pretty vital to all the functionality of the computer. And it's not something that you should just set up and then forget about. If you don't have an iPhone and you don't have an Apple ID, but you buy a Mac computer and you set an Apple ID up with them, you shouldn't think of it as just something that you had to do one time. Because just like I was saying, how useful that can be and how tied into a system you become with the account, you'll get locked out of that system without knowing the account information. So it's important to actually be able to access the account, to remember what you make it and the password, etc. So that leads me to something that I mentioned earlier, which was storage locations in Finder. And that is also tied to accounts and cloud storage. So we go ahead and open up a Finder window here. I'll make it bigger. All right. So aspects of this are definitely a little bit beyond computer basics. However, file structure is something that you use even if you don't realize it. If you're using a computer, file structure is part of what you do, even if you're unaware. So what we're looking at here is Finder, which is the file structure visualization for Mac computers. Windows has File Explorer. Google or Chrome devices, Chrome OS devices, forget exactly what they call it. It might just be files. Okay, it's the same idea on all of them though. You have this larger, mostly white area at the moment that is going to display files in the current location. Since we just opened up a new window of Finder, we're in a quasi place. It doesn't exactly exist as a true location. It's more like a collection of things from other locations that you have used recently. So I'm going to go ahead and immediately move us to a different location by choosing something over here on the navigation bar. So I chose desktop. And desktop is what we were talking about earlier, which is this, whole area behind us, right? Where we have the dock, these icons, the widgets, and now this window of Finder. All of that is on top of the desktop. But the desktop is still a location. It is a place where you can save things, which is what these folders are, right? And like these files. So this Tech Talks for SDM file is the exact same one as this one. So I have it selected here in Finder, as well as it, selected on the desktop by its icon. So if you have things on your desktop, you're using file structure. However, there's plenty of users who don't fully understand how file structure works. So they might end up with lots of things on their desktop when really they should probably be elsewhere. Another place that tends to be like that for less proficient users is downloads, because anything that you download ends up here. And doing something like saving a document somebody sent you in an email, that's downloading. So it might be a place where things like that end up, and if you don't move them, then it stays in downloads. And downloads is not a good temporary location. Desktop is a better temporary location because it is, meant to be a changing but consistent location. Downloads is more of an ever-changing location that continuously gets new things brought in, as well as gets, emptied, because if something was important and you downloaded it, like the example of a document from an email, right? Then you would want to file that with where all your other files of that type go, just like a file cabinet, because that's what we're dealing with here. This is a digital file cabinet. So this would be like, I don't know, like a bin on top of the file cabinet that's, new documents that you've been handed. And you got to sort them and decide where they go, whether it's trash or into, a proper, folder within your file cabinet.